2, 1. Welcome on in, listeners. This is the very first debut episode of On Beat Off Script. My name is Brandito, and I'm here with Mel, which are going to be your recurring hosts, as well as a fantastic guest, our good friend Incredibob. And basically, the whole concept of this is we are a new music podcast. We want to talk about new music as it's coming out as soon as possible, so you guys know what to listen to, where to find it, and let you know what kind of our thoughts are on it. The first one of those albums is going to be My Way, which is an EP that was just came out for Yola, who's been kind of renowned in the industry. She's worked with so many different artists. She's a 6-time Grammy nominee. She's worked with so many artists as as a background vocalist, as a feature, as a songwriter, as a producer. She's worked in a lot of different capacities with a lot of different artists. But not very much on her own, putting out her own solo stuff. So she's working on a new project. This is the EP that came out for this new project that's coming forward. Not quite a household name, but I think that's something that could start to slowly change, especially if she continues to go down the direction and doing more of her solo stuff with all of the backing that she has from other artists. Following that up, we'll have The Singing Winds Part 3 with Keely. That album, again, Keely being the frontman of post-punk band Block Party from back in kind of the late 90s, early 2000s. Kind of a little bit more experimental. They kind of almost bordered on some pop side of things back in the day. You definitely see a lot more of what his influence might have been on Block Party, listening to a lot more of his solo stuff, and then kind of vice versa, where you see the different influences that came from both sides of the spectrum on it. And then finally, obviously, the big fish of this past week that just dropped, Balloonerisms by Mac Miller, his second posthumous release that I know a lot of people who are big Mac Miller fans, because there's a lot of them, have been excited for. It's a project that I believe he worked on like in 2013, 2014 for the most part, and they just waited to release it because they had other things they wanted to release first. And finally, Mac Miller's estate just allowed the rights for them to release the album. So really, really kind of excited to go over that one with you guys. But to start everything off, My Way by Yola. I thought it was just this super mega neo soul vocal record. You have big choirs coming in, you have big beats. Everything about this album was big and boisterous and ready to perform. You know what I mean? What were your guys' upfront thoughts about kind of the whole album as a whole? We'll go into details here shortly.
I thought it was like.
No, go. I wasn't sure who was going first. Please go.
I listen. I thought it was like very easy listening. It was very pleasant to the ear. The entire album. Like I turned it on. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. You know, that kind of feeling. Little easy beach listening. Honestly, a little gospel, even a little bit of gospel.
Yeah,
a little bit of Michael Jackson even being kind of summoned in a way, channeled, I should say.
You know what? I felt like actually a huge amount of Janet Jackson, I think, influence in like a really, really big way, where it kind of took that late 90s R&B soul and then kind of brought that in this neo soul style. That's where I found it. I believe I actually have a clip that's like selected specifically for that when we cover that track independently. Nice. Yeah. Mel?
What do you think, Mel?
For me, this is my first time even hearing the name Yola. This is a genre that I don't listen to enough, and I probably should listen to it more because, like, I mean, damn, she's impressive as fuck. Her vocals are incredible. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm like almost a little mad at myself for not knowing who she was. Especially, I didn't 100%. Know she was 6-time Grammy nominated. I was like, how have I never heard this name before? Like, am I living under a rock? This is crazy.
But like so, and a couple of those nominations, they actually come from the sample work that she has done on other people's stuff. You know what I mean? Or as a
Okay.
songwriter on other people's stuff. There's a lot of what her discography is not necessarily her being at the forefront of her of the tracks that she puts together, which I think is really really nice. It's nice to see her kind of develop and actually being now that the face of her music as opposed to letting other people be that face. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So super cool, and again, I'm really excited to kind of see how her career continues to move forward. But speaking of the tracks that she is the focus of, so obviously it's only 5 tracks, so we'll actually try to kind of actually crush through a bunch of them. It opened up with Future Enemies, which was a kind of like pop R&B beat that opens everything up, which I really really enjoyed. But then it kind of consistently throughout the whole album, it opens up to this really really big choir backed chorus, which it her voice and her vocal range is so impressive, and she shows it all off kind of right off the hop, and then continues to do that again for another 4 tracks, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, Future Enemies instantly hooked me. I like I I was listening to on my way into work yesterday, and on a severe lack of sleep and not caffeinated yet, and like I
Yeah.
was like, it was a rough start to my day, but this is like I literally put on Future Enemies, and I was like, I'm in, I'm up, I'm ready, let's do this.
For
I'm
sure.
gonna go. I'm gonna get through my day.
It's an album that's hard to be like angry during. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And Future Enemies is just another one of those tracks where it's like it feels so uplifting and motivational. Her
Mhm.
vocals really kind of take the lead in that. It's hard to be kind of upset, I think, all things considered, when you're listening to something that is feels so grand going on around you, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Bob?
Hold
sorry,
on.
my that got popped. I don't know why that popped up. We should be good.
Yeah, I think I fell out of your jam again. Sorry. That just
Oh.
hit me.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, because my music started playing. Um, no, yeah. I also had never heard of Yola, believe it or not. And I I was blown away. I wasn't like, this isn't music I would listen to myself on a daily basis. It's not the first thing I would reach for. Certainly when I'm looking for a beat or looking for some inspiration to get some work done or anything like that. But it's ultimately it's very enjoyable. It's very enjoyable, and it's very uh easy to jump into.
For
I
sure.
would say, yeah,
Mhm.
For sure. Going kind of like track by track, Temporary was my personal favorite of the
yeah,
whole album. I loved like it's like it was a very 80s style that personally for me, again, it kind of took from kind of like that Janet Jackson kind of sound. But it really, again, it felt like it incorporated a lot of what made a lot of the 2024 pop albums so great. It kind of factored in both, and that's what I specifically have a clip for on this
okay,
one, like just to kind of show a little bit of an example of like that 80s turn new age, which is why I kind of call it a neo soul album, the way that it pulls that old vibe into a little bit more of a modern day presence.
yeah.
Right here, when I actually turn the volume on, how about?
Mm.
Like you kind of have that transition
Yeah.
between, if I was to hear, a Harry Styles use that as a chorus, it would make sense, but you could
Mhm.
also picture it being, a Whitney Houston style track in the 80s,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
And I
yeah.
feel like she does a really, really good job on Temporary of threading that needle and kind of using both. Symphony itself has like an insane beat line and bass line that kind of recurs through the whole thing, which I also
Symphony
have
was my favorite. That was the highlight of the album for me.
for sure.
But yeah, go ahead.
Let me get it pulled up here. Sorry, trying to do two back to back is not the easiest thing.
No,
But
yeah.
from the very get-go of this track, like this old 90s style like breakbeat track, I think just
so
works so well with her voice. And this gives me straight Janet Jackson. Like, it feels like it has that attitude era with the hip-hop beat, but her very soul-like voice over top of it. I think it just works. Yeah, it works super well on that end. My Way was very similar, where it had kind of that Janet attitude, that Red Velvet style to it, that just, it works so well. And then you have that really big chorus backing vocal that continues to kind of push her a little bit forward. For me, it did kind of, My Way was probably one of my least favorites on the track, which is unfortunate that it did kind of tail off, I think, at the end for me.
Yeah, it was like that was the outro, right? Yeah.
That was the last track on it. But overall, I think it was a super powerful vocal album. I thought it was really enjoyable. And again, I want to see her put together a full project that I can really like sit down and dive into. Because I like where it's starting if this is what she's working on right now, you know?
So are these the only 5 tracks she's ever released? Or
no, so she actually has released albums and stuff like that before. Just a little bit more obscure than I think she should have credit for, in my opinion. Just with how good she is and how many big artists and big names she's worked with. You know, it's crazy to think that I dive into as much music as I dive into, and Yola I only known as kind of being a backtrack person, as a backup vocalist, or as a feature, or as a songwriter, even, where you actually haven't been able to hear her powerful vocals at all. So it is exciting. I am looking forward to it in a pretty big way.
Nice.
Yeah.
What would you rate what you listen to?
What would I rate it? For me, again, like, it is big, powerful soul. It is an EP, so the sample size is small for myself. For me, I think it's a 6.8. When I hear
that's lower than I thought you were going to give it.
When I hear it on another full, you know, at the end of the day, it is still a neo soul pop album for me, and it is still very poppy. And Pop and I are always going to have our differences between the two of us. So I do feel the parts where it misses me a little bit is on the lyrical side, for sure. Lyrically, does she tell a more elaborate story? Not necessarily, but on like an actual, like on a musical level, I thought it was big, grandiose. And it does that pretty consistently throughout the whole thing. So also a little bit of a change up there, I think, could work. But no, it was super enjoyable. I could listen to it again, and I would have no issues, you know?
Yeah. I find it has presence, right? You feel the music when you're listening to this. Yeah. And you can't say that about everything we've talked about today. So
no, absolutely not.
But my rating is specifically taste, and not so much like I think it's a great album. My taste brings it down a little bit because it's not, like, again, not something I would listen to every day.
Yeah.
I'm at a 6.5 out of 10 myself.
Yeah.
I think she deserves more. I think there's a lot more to this, but yeah, that's where I'm at. What do you think, Mel?
100%.
Yeah, I would put it around like a 7 for me. I think I really did enjoy it, and I think she's somebody who essentially like demands respect, and I love that diva attitude. I will. I always will stand that. But yeah, I'm excited to hear more. And also, yeah, it's just not my typical genre. So yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. On a rating level,
7.
Yeah, there you go. So we were all actually like pretty much 3, 2, 1.